Hey, it's Zenio Gamer, and we are here today with another Rune video. We're going to be talking about Rune Potential again. This follows up on the prior Rune Potential video, so I'll put a link in the description down below. And we're going to be doing a lot of work in the Summoner's War Optimizer today as well. So if you're not sure how to install the Optimizer or how to get your JSON file, I'm going to put a link in the description down below to a video done by Ace that shows you how to do that. Okay, now the first thing I want to mention today is that the optimizer is able to give you better builds when it has more information. So if you go to any one of my runes in here, any one of my rune sets, you'll see everything I keep, I take to plus 12, as long as I have enough mana. If I don't, I would take it to like plus 9. The stuff in there that's plus 15, it's runes that were on other monsters and then got swapped during the last FRR or something. So by taking it to plus 12, because the optimizer can't predict the subs that are going to hit, when I load these runes into the optimizer, it knows what the rune's going to look like at plus 12, because it's there already, and so it can calculate better sets. The other advantage of having your runes to plus 12 is that you can put your gems in, well, you can put grinds on a rune at any time, of course, but you can put your gems on them and you can know if they're worth grinding. Because when a rune's at plus 6, it may look like it could be great, but then you could derp on the next two levels of inscription, you know, at plus 9 and plus 12. And if you've already grinded it, you kind of wasted those grinds. So the way I do it is farm for a few days. I build up 10 to 30, sometimes even 50 runes, depending on if I'm getting good drops or not. And then I go into the optimizer and I sort everything by level under 11. And I put only the ones in inventory, so I'm not seeing like the uninscribed runes on my BJ monsters. And then I just scroll down here and I look at the runes that I have. And as you can see, I did a cleanup this morning, so that's just from today's farming. And what I like to do is I usually like to start with the lowest efficiency runes first. Efficiency is not the only determining factor in if you keep a rune. I could have a low efficiency rune with 25 speed, and I guarantee you I'm keeping it. But it's a good guide point to how good the rune can be. So I start with the lowest efficiency runes because those are going to get sold more often. Most of the time you're just inscribing them because you're looking for a triple or quad roll, and if they don't get it or if the rolls are not great, you're going to get to sell them really quick when they're at plus 3, plus 6. Every now and then in the game, if I get a rune that's kind of iffy, I might inscribe it to 3 or 6 and see if it's worth keeping, and then if it hits okay, then I'll load it in the optimizer and look at the final percentages. So like this Vampire 1 over here, you can see it rolled 15 speed. That 5 crit damage is probably going to need to be gemmed off, so it would need to go perfect at plus 6 and plus 9 to be a keeper, but since it was a 15 speed rune, I kept it. So anyway, once we've gone through and brought all of our runes up to plus 12 or sold them, then I will go through and look at which runes need to be gemmed from whatever last raid session I did. So there's a couple of ways that we can look for the gems that we have, and then we can pick which runes to put them on. We do want to start with the gems before the grinds, because after you gem something, you may want to grind it, and you may not have enough grinds on hand. So we're not saying that you will grind the rune that you've just gemmed, but we want that to be an option when we get to the grindstone stage. So we can come up here to this filter by specific grind enchant and just pull down off this list. So for example, we've got a blade defense hero. I could pull that up. You might notice I cleared the top up here as well. So we've got any location, everything is empty basically. So I pull that up and it brings me up to 17 different places that I could put it. One catch is that swap is a little buggy sometimes, and it once in a while will not show you some of the runes that you actually could use the gem on. So I prefer to just go through and do a manual filtering to make sure that I'm getting all of the runes that are available shown to me. So I would come up here and I would say it's blade. Because it's defense, it cannot go on a slot 1, right? So we're going to say not slot 1. We click on the not. It cannot be a main stat defense. It cannot be an innate stat defense. So we say not main, not innate. That brings us down to 35 entries. You notice that's higher than when I pulled up the filtering, right? Now, one of the reasons it's higher is because some of these defense entries over here, we couldn't gem. Like this rune on Hua is 15 plus 8. So I can't gem that because the base defense is higher than the 11 that the purple hero gem would give me. But if I come down here, this first page, that's an 11 plus 6, that's 13 plus 4. 16, and now we get to the second page, and all of a sudden we see a 16 plus, a 10 plus 6. So that one we could gem. We wouldn't, it'd be a waste, but we could. And so we got a couple more here that can't be, these two, but pretty much everything else can. So if you notice, it told me there were only 17 runes that I could gem, but when I filter it out, I actually come up with something around 22. And so what are those other 5 runes? That's the glitch and swap. I don't really know what causes it, but it is why I prefer to do it this way. Now the other thing is we also want to mark no on the ancient. So that was one of those runes, but where are the other 4? Okay, so now to a more practical purpose, we want to pick which rune to use this on. And because Blade is a little bit different, since we mostly use that for PvE, or like deep in your monster siege box, you know, when you're out of your better will, nemesis, whatever. Let's take a look at what grinds we have for a set. We'll go ahead and hit clear. What gems we have for a set that is a little bit more desirable. So we've got some nemesis, we've got some rage, we've got some swift, but the swift ones aren't very good. And oh, here we go, violent. Oh, we've got a violent speed. So it's only a hero speed, but this is a good way to look at the process of how we would do this. Now, violent in particular is tough because I happen to have a lot of violent runes, but like everyone else, not like I'm special there. As a matter of fact, I probably have less than most people because I'm not a big fan of violent in general. But, so we're going to say not main stat speed, not innate stat speed. And then we are going to start by looking at the runes that are equipped on monsters. Although I will gem everything, like the ones in inventory as well as the ones on monsters, I always prefer to start with the ones on my monsters because if I can improve the sets I'm already using, it has an immediate benefit for me. So we've got equipped on monsters. We're going to come back in. We're going to put no to our ancient. So then we're going to sort by speed. And what we're actually looking for is our slowest rune, not our fastest. So we sort by speed. We skip forward here a few pages until we start finding speed. Now it's a 5 to 8 gem. So we're going to look on these pages and see if any of these make sense to re-gem. And so we've got a couple of 4s down here. The one on bulldozer. Oh. As soon as I saw bulldozer, I realized we also need to set the set to violent. Okay, now that we're looking at the correct runes, so we'll come back over here. We're going to skip forward, and we get to this one on Lynn, which obviously we're not worried about Lynn, and she's speed tuned for PvE. So I come down here, Ergar, Mav, they're both speed tuned intentionally slow. I've got this Skogul one, but that's only a siege defense monster. And so basically this is what I do is I just keep jumping through and I'm mostly looking at this location, at this location column over here to see where the runes are. And now I'm up here to like +7 and I hit this Xingshi rune. And this is a rune that I would actually would like to gem because it's Xingshi. However, you can't see it because of my big ass head over on the screen here. The crit rate was already gemmed on that rune. That's why it was slow in the first place. And so, since we can't do it, we keep on going down the list, and we hit the +8s. And now we're at a point where there's no point in using the gem, because all you're trying to do is get right back to exactly where you were. Now that I've eliminated those that have speed, we can come over here and we put substats not speed, and you notice my entire bottom screen just cleared out. And that is another swap glitch. So all I do is grab the level, bring it from 14 to 15, and everything comes right back. And now we're down to 13 runes, which we can use this speed gem on. So once again, we're going to come down here and we're looking by location. Ergar, Galleon, Lynn, we're not concerned with speed gemming any of those. Perna, on the other hand, we would like to speed gem. However, if we look at this Perna rune, we see that there is nothing that I could reasonably exchange. I have 13 crit damage, 14 crit rate, 17 HP. The only thing I could really gem off would be that defense, the 17 defense that actually just has that tiny little inscription on it. But is it really worth gemming away 17 defense and possibly only hitting 5 speed? It's just not worth it. So we see immediately that there's no monster that we're desperate to put this on. And so now we can switch this over and we go to inventory. We're going to use the exact same process for inventory to identify the runes that we would like to put this on if we can. Except we're no longer looking at location. Now what we're really looking at is practicality. Like, which of these runes has a stat that I'm willing to exchange? And I'll tell you from this list there are none, so we're going to go to another gem and use that as a different example. So we come to this list here, we see we've got a despair HP percent. That's something that is almost always useful. It's always great to have HP. I use despair runes frequently. So we're going to go ahead and change our set to despair. It can go on any slot, so that's fine. We're going to clear that off. The only thing it cannot go on is a rune that has a main or innate stat of HP percentage. So we'll put not main HP and so on. And then of course we're going to clear off our grind enchant. We keep it as not an ancient rune. We come down and we see we've got 24 different options. So I'm going to turn off the camera here for a little bit so that you can see the full screen. So as we're looking through our list now, what we're going to be looking for is the stats that are least synergistic and least efficient both on the rune. So for example, if we look at this slot 3, it has 8 resistance. And 8 resistance fits really well with a rune that's already got HP and defense sometimes. But 8 resistance is very rarely useful, and it's even less likely to be useful on despair. So then we ask ourselves, what do we want to put on this rune? And it's pretty straightforward. What we need to put on this rune is speed. So if we click the enchant, we see we have one rare speed, which we're not going to use. As we're looking by efficiency, we see this Antares rune is 8 plus 5. So that's something that we could try to regem to boost. But it's probably not our first priority to use an HP gem when we could use it somewhere else. If I were to get through these 16 runes and find nowhere to use it, that's when I would start to look at using a regem on HP. But until all of my runes have been gemmed, I don't like to regem them. So what I'm looking for now is going to be anything that's a flat stat attack, defense, or HP, or anything that's a really low number on accuracy, resistance, or crit damage. I almost never gem away crit rate, and I never gem away attack, HP, or defense percent unless I'm regemming them for a better stat. So the first one that pops out to me is this Despair 4, which has the 19 flat defense, but it's an attack percent rune. I've only kept it because it has 18 speed. And it's not a rune I'm likely to use anytime soon, so I'm not going to use an HP gem on it. Right beneath it is this Despair 6 attack, which has 19 speed on it, which is obviously why we kept it. And then it has some resistance, crit rate, and crit damage. So this is a rune where we would definitely love to gem away the resistance. Now, I don't like to use a lot of flat gems, but this is one case where I might consider gemming flat attack because it already has the crit rate, crit damage. But my other option on this rune would be to gem away this resistance and go with the HP percent. Okay, so now that we've inscribed all our runes to 12 and we've used all of our gems, the last step is to go ahead and use our grinds. You can do that in swap by coming down to the filter by specific grinds and scrolling through the list, but most of us have so many grinds that it's not very practical to scroll through hundreds of them. So I find it easier just to go into the game, go to the set that I want to grind. So in this case, we'll take a look at Rage and just look at what I have by hitting, power up enchant. So I see I've got 1 speed, I've got an attack, a defense. Right now I don't have a lot of Rage grinds, but we'll start off by saying we want to grind the speed. So I'm going to come back over to swap. I'm going to load it up by saying Rage. My location will be any, or I could go by equipped on monster, either one. So for example, with Rage, I know all of my runes are basically grinded and I'm just regrinding, so I sort by any. But whereas with Violent, I have a lot of runes that are not grinded, so I sort by equipped by monster. Just kind of depends on where you stand with your grinds right now. So we're going to go to Rage, we're going to go to Any, we're going to set our substats to speed, we're going to scroll down here, and we're going to sort by efficiency. Now, actually, I sort by efficiency sometimes, and I sort by speed sometimes, because I'm more likely to use my fastest runes than I am my most efficient runes. They both tend to get used. If I have 113% efficiency rune, it will get used. But if I have a 26 speed rune, I was going to say it will get used, but this one's actually in inventory, so. But either way, those are the two fields that you could sort by. You could sort by your fastest runes, or you could sort by your most efficient. Just keep in mind that if you're sorting by your fastest runes, it's going to ignore those slot 2 speed runes. So for our purposes, we're going to go most efficient. And then what we're going to be looking for right now is anything that has only a +2 speed grind. I'll turn the camera off again so you can see the full screen. So we're looking first and foremost for anything that is not grinded at all, obviously. And then if it is grinded, we're looking for +2 grind so that we can regrind. So right away we see Julie as a +2, but my Julie is precisely speed tuned and I'm not going to grind her. So that one is going to stay on its own. And so I'll just keep going through the pages until I've looked at everything. So right here I've got a +16 speed rune that is not grinded at all, but it's also a pretty mediocre rune. And there's a good shot that I'm just going to wind up selling that rune, so I'm probably not going to waste a grind on it for right now. And once I've gone through all of my pages and looked at all of my runes, then I'll go ahead and make my decision as to which rune I'm going to grind. And for argument's sake, let's just pretend that I did grind that +16 speed rune. So obviously it's a pain for a lot of us to get the JSON files again, and so I will go ahead and just mark it up in here. So first I'll go over to the game and see what we get. I'm not going to grind this one, but we'll just pretend I did and see what we get. Let's pretend I got a +3, right? So now I'm going to come back over to my swap, and I'm going to hit the grind button, and I'm going to hit equip on the speed, and I'm going to type in +3. It's going to update the rune right inside my swap file for me. It's going to show me the new efficiency percentage, and it's going to delete that rage grind from swap. So if you see, I can no longer grind speed. The little G is gone from all the speeds because it deleted the grind when I used it. And this allows me to go through a big session without having to continually update my swap file, and also to see how my runes are progressing. And then if I wanted to go ahead and, you know, set up a monster after that and use my updated stats, I don't have to refresh the JSON file. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please pop that subscribe button over on the left. It shows me that you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, it shows me that you found the information useful, and hopefully it helped you in your gameplay. So here's the deal. You pop subscribe, and I'll keep popping out content. Thanks, guys.